Good day, everybody. Uh, we are going to start now the module 3 of our series of training about ISO 19011 2018 standard. And as you know, this 19011 2018 standard is the guideline for auditing purpose. And up to now, we have discussed module 1 and module 2 of this training series, and today we are going to discuss this module 3. That is the last module of this training, and after this module 3, our training with respect to 19011 2018 standard would be completed. Uh, as you know, this is a Sierra Leone competitiveness project, and it is EU funded project for Sierra Leone. And in this project, there are basically three main pillars. One is the quality infrastructure services development, other is the value chain, and the last pillar is about enabling business policies and business environment. And all these pillars together in an integrated way would enhance the competitiveness of the Sierra Leone. My name is Dr. Shaukat Malik, and I am the Chief Technical Advisor for this project. And this 19011 standard that we are going to uh, give you training, that is part of the Pillar 1, quality infrastructure, services development, and in the quality infrastructure services, basically conformity assessment, standards, metrology, infrastructure, all these things together develop the quality infrastructure services network. This project is for cassava, palm oil, and cocoa value chain. I briefed you earlier, and you need to approach to move toward the competitiveness. Project is to first create the competitiveness in the agri value chains and the agriculture produce, uh, move the agriculture produce toward the conformance of the standard, toward the conformance of basically the conformity assessment bodies, toward the conformance of the different technical regulations, and then connect that competitiveness and conform produce to the world market. So this is the three C's approach: competitiveness, conformity, and connectivity from produce up to the international or the regional market. As I briefed you that this standard, that is ISO 19011 standard guideline for auditing management systems, and due to the time constraints, I have converted this standard training into three modules: module 1, module 2, and module 3. And up to now, we have basically discussed, and we have basically got the training of this module 1 and module 2 of ISO 19011. And today's session is about module 3, that is the last session in the series of ISO 19011 training. This module 3, as usual for every module, module 3 has the basically three sections. Section 1 is about development of audit checklist as per 19011 standard, because this standard require that after planning of the audit that we have discussed in module 1, we discussed about what is audit, what is auditee, what are the type of audits, and what is lead auditor, and who is technical expert and auditor. And now we are moving towards how to develop the checklist as per the requirement of 19011, and then physically uh, do the on-site audit of that enterprise and follow that checklist that we have prepared in this section 1, and prepare the audit report, and then share that audit report with the basically RDT, and RDT would prepare basically the corrective actions, and then we will see how to close the corrective action in this section 2 and section 3. About once this would be done, then definitely the time comes for certification. This last section is not part of ISO 19011. This is just for understanding that what is the certification and what is accreditation, and what is the regional network of the certification and accreditation, and what is the global network. But overall, this is not part of the ISO 19011, but understanding is mandatory to understand the entire structure of this conformity assessment bodies. That is why I have included this section 3. As I told you, this section 1 about 19011 is regarding the audit checklist. Now, when I say the audit checklist, what is the purpose of this checklist? Basically, this checklist help auditors organize, plan, and conduct the audit and report the audit results in an organized way. And why we use the checklist? Because we may not be detract from the standard. As you know that ISO, for example, we are going to prepare, by the way, before I may go towards the checklist would not be with respect to 19011. 19011 is about techniques of the audit. But the standard, for example, you are going to certify the company, or you are going to do the audit of the company, and audit scope is ISO 9001, then your audit checklist would base on 9001 different clauses. And if you are going to do the audit, remind the module 1. And if you are going to do the audit of 17025, then your audit checklist would be based on ISO 17025. If you are going to do the audit with respect to food safety standard ISO 22000, then your audit checklist would based on ISO 22000 standard, that is food safety management system standard. That is why I'm saying that 19011 is basically the guideline. Okay. And as per this guideline, you have to prepare the checklist with respect to your audit criteria and your audit scope. And your audit criteria is ISO 9001. Suppose that you have to prepare the checklist with respect to the ISO 9001 classes. And now, if you recall the training of ISO 9001 that we have completed before this 19011, ISO 9001 has the 10 classes from class number 1 up to class number 10, and actual classes, the implementation classes starts from class number 4 up to 10. Now you have to prepare your audit checklist with respect to class number 4, then with respect to class number 5, class number 6, up to class number 10. And you can divide your basically audit checklist with respect to different auditors if you have a team of auditors. But overall, use of the audit checklist to serve as a guide during the audit to ensure that all the key requirement of the standard, that is ISO 9001, and the key processes and the subclasses of 9001. I'm using here 9001 standard. Okay, you may not miss any class and the subclass while you are going to check it into any enterprise. That is why you prepare the checklist. Otherwise, you cannot remember. If you are as an editor, you are going to check the class number 7 of ISO 9001. You cannot remember entire class number 7, included the subclasses and the subclasses of class number 7. You cannot remember. And when you will go into the enterprise, you will forget it. That is why you have to convert the class number 7 in the form of checklist. That when you will go there, what are the 9001 class number 7 requirement? You will write all the subclasses into question form, and then you will go there and you will check it. You will do the question as per the requirement of that class number 7, and you will then record your findings. To keep the audit on the track means you may not, sometime you will start class 7, sometime you will start class 8, sometime you will start class 9. If you do not have the audit checklist, but if you have the checklist, you will go smoothly with respect to uh, the requirement of the standard, and you will remain on track. And the objective is that all the classes and the subclasses have been implemented, and you have to evaluate the performance into that typical enterprise, that what is the performance of this enterprise with respect to, for example, class number 9 of ISO 9001. That is why you prepare checklist, so that you may remember all the things and your things should remain on track. What are the advantages? Definitely, there are many advantages. You do not go sidetrack. You feel yourself very organized. Your questions are always relevant, and you can discuss and plan your audit and audit report with respect to different classes of the standard. But personally, I do not feel some disadvantages. But yes, if you say that it is a boring, every time you have to remain watching your checklist, that you are not sidetracking, but again, it keeps you on track, and you follow the rules, and you become very productive. But definitely, it's limit your creativity. Maybe if you are not following quite checklist, you can maybe can raise many questions. But definitely, when you will raise many questions, some of the questions will be irrelevant, and it will be just wastage of time. But on the other side, in the audit, you have the limited time, and you have to complete your audit within the time. That is why advantages are more, and disadvantages are less. Guide to checklist design. How to prepare the checklist. This is the basically one of the main competency to become an auditor. The auditor is always considered very good auditor if he has the capability to prepare the checklist. And definitely, when you go into the examination of this 19011, you will find always one question, around about 10 to 15 marks question, to prepare the checklist of one of the class of ISO 9001. Definitely, maybe they can ask you class number 8 or class number 5 to prepare the checklist. Then you have to prepare the checklist, and they will evaluate your competency with respect to preparation of the checklist. Definitely, when you are going to prepare the checklist, you have to identify the relevant class of ISO 9000. If you are going to prepare the ISO 9001 checklist, definitely you have to see that either you have to prepare the checklist with respect to class number 5 or class number 4 or class number 10. That is why identification of the relevant class and the relevant standard is the first step. Then check that other than for example, if you are going to prepare the class number 5 checklist, other than the subclasses requirement, is there any requirement with respect to law or the applicable statutory requirement of the country with respect to this class number 5? If it is there included into the checklist other than class and subclass requirement, then review the documented information that is with respect to this class number 5. The company where you are going to audit, they have given you some procedures with respect to this clause number 5. Then you have to basically read those procedures as well. Now it means you have to read the clause number 5 clause and subclauses with respect to ISO 9000. Then you have to check the applicable statutory and the legal requirement of that country if they are there. For example, there is a clause is regarding the wastage of the water, and there is a some legal requirement in that country that you cannot waste the water if it has some chemicals, forbidden chemicals in it. Then you have to include that question into your checklist as well. Then you have to read the procedure of the clause number 5 of that procedure that has been written by that company. You have to read it, and then you will be in better position to add some of the questions from their procedure into this checklist. Then you have to follow the process model, identify the audit trail. Then you have to observe that what kind of question now you will ask. You have to prepare the question and add it into your checklist, and now your checklist would be ready. And then you can go there and you can write on the sideline when you will go there with respect to class number 5, what kind of documents you will check. Okay, you can write as many steps as possible on your checklist. For example, this is a class number 5.3 of ISO 9001. I have just taken the image of from the standard. This class number 5.3. This is the image of ISO 9001 standard subclass 5.3. Now, how to convert this 5.3 subclass into the audit checklist? So this is the question. Okay, now this is a class 5.3. These are the requirement in this class. Now you can see in the next how we have converted this class requirement into the checklist. What we have done, for example, this was the first thing, ensuring that quality management system conform to the requirement of this international standard. Okay. Now, has the top management, for example, before that, here it was written top management shall ensure that responsibilities and authorities and roles have been defined and communicated and understood to the key organization people. It is with respect to responsibilities and authorities and job description of the key pupil. This is the responsibility of the top management. Now, if you have to check this requirement of class 5.3, how you will check? See here, I have written, has the top management ensured that responsibility and authorities, roles, all these things has been assigned and communicated? What is the technique? You have to basically, this was the basically requirement. Now you have to convert this requirement into question. Okay, now I have converted this requirement in question, and this is now checklist. Okay, and when you will go there, you will check that if it is there, you will see the document, you will see the evidence that is there, then you will write or if it is not there, you will write in the comments that what was the problem. Or even if it's there, you can write here that I have checked the SOP number this and this was there and this was implemented. And other than the documented evidence, I have checked verbally with the key pupil. I have asked the question, what are your authorities, what are your responsibilities, and they were knowing about it. Objective is not to check in the documents. Objective is to check physically that the pupil have the documents, but pupil must know and they are doing the work accordingly. Okay, then you have to write here, yes, you have checked it. It was implemented. It was there in the document and it was implemented. Now, what is the next requirement was ensuring that quality management system conforms to the requirement of international standard while assigning the responsibilities. Okay, all these things are the top management ensure that its QMS, I mean quality management system, meets the requirement of ISO 9001 2015 standard. So this was the second, ensuring that okay quality management system conform to the requirement of the international standard. What is international standard? ISO 9001 2015. And I have converted this A into this question. Now read the class A and then read the question, you will understand. Okay, so all these questions are with respect to all these classes starting from A, B, C, D, E. So these are reporting on the performance of quality management. So this is here we can see that while assigning the responsibility, these things, performance and customer focus, all these are basically the requirement of this standard. See here, ensuring the promotion of the customer focus throughout the organization. Now, if I move here, you can see that while assigning the responsibility and authority, do the top management ensure that there is a promotion of the customer focus throughout the organization? So that was the subclass, but here it is a question in my checklist. So this is the technique to prepare the checklist. When you will study, uh, please, I would request you, please keep the standard parallel to this training. While you are listening this training, open the class number 5.3 of the standard, keep it with you, then start basically looking all these questions, those are here. You will be better understood how I have converted the subclasses into these questions. When I will check all these questions and those are there, it means I have checked that class number 5.3. Objective is to check the class number 5.3 implementation into the specific enterprise. This is the objective of this checklist. Now, for example, this is 8.2.3. This is the review of requirement of the product and services. This is the image from this ISO 9001 class number 8.2.3. This is image of that class. Now I have converted these subclasses and this subclass main into the questions. Now these are the questions. So again, keep the standard open, and when you will see the 8.2.3 subclass and you will read these questions, you will find these that subclasses have been converted into questions. So this is all about preparing the checklist. Now you have the checklist. Now you are going there. For example, there is one lead editor and two are the editors, and there are class number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It means there are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7 clauses are there. Okay, one major clause lead editor can check and he can prepare the checklist. Remaining will be 6 clauses. So out of these 6 clauses, he can divide to prepare the checklist of these 6 clauses into the 3 clauses. It is very easy for editor to prepare the checklist of 3 clauses, and when he will go there and he can basically audit those 3 clauses, and then another editor can audit another 3 clauses, and then they can share with the lead editor and they can basically compile the audit report. Now, what is basically audit report? Audit report always starts when you prepare, basically when you have checked and raised the question as per your checklist, you will find that some of the clauses or the sub clauses have not been implemented properly. It means those are the gaps. It means those are the non-conforming. So ISO 9000, ISO 19011 basically has converted the those non-conformances into two types. One is the major non-conformance, other is the minor non-conformance, and third is the observation. So what is major non-conformance? Systematic absence of complete requirement of the standard or implementation. For example, entire clause number 5, they have not implemented clause number 5 and there is no procedure of clause number 5. It means it is entire major clause is missing. This is a major non-conformance. Yes, some of the minor non-conformance can be converted into major if the same behavior is there into the entire organization. For example, the auditor has observed that the calibration procedure is there, okay, but some of the calibration equipments are calibrated, but some are not. Now procedure is there and some calibration are, some equipments are calibrated and some are not. This is a minor non-conformance. But if we see that this behavior is available into all the departments of that enterprise, I mean, the equipments are not calibrated into the lab of that company, equipments are not calibrated into the plant of that company, some of the equipments are not calibrated into maybe the after sale service. So this behavior is everywhere in the each department. It means it has been overlooked. Now these are the minor subclasses, but again it will be converted into major because the overall behavior is there. But normally major class is the gap of one major class. I mean, one of the entire class is missing, either its documentation or implementation. For example, the class number 7 documentation is there, but implementation of entire class number 7 is not there. Still, it is a major non-conformance because documentation is one part and implementation is another part. If documentation of the class is there, implementation is not there, still entire class is missing and it would be considered as major. Now, what is minor? Yes, for example, I have given you example that the procedure of the calibration is there, but some of the thermometers in one department are not calibrated. It means these have been overlooked. I mean, the calibration procedure is there and the implementation is also there. It means if there are 10 thermometers, 8 are calibrated, okay, but 2 are not calibrated due to some negligence. It means the system is there, but some slippage has happened and some of the negligence has happened, and two thermometers have been overlooked, now it can be considered as minor non-conformance. If there is a major non-conformance, you cannot decide about certification decision for this organization until and unless they may remove the major non-conformance, and you may come and you may again witness it. But if there are minor non-conformances, you can take the certification decision and you can say that, okay, you will remove the minor non-conformances within 90 days as per your certification body procedure. Some certification bodies give 90 days, some give 60 days. So they will remove those minor non-conformances and you will issue the certificate. But in terms of minor non-conformance, auditor will not come again to visit it, but they will visit on they will close these minor non-conformances based on the documented evidence sent by that enterprise to the auditor. What is observation? Observation is a concern, is a process suggestion. For example, it is not written into the I mean ISO 9001 standard. It is not written with respect to documented procedure of that company, that company must have the system, must have the uh, very good internet system, and they must have the provision for the Zoom conference. They must have provision. It is not written in ISO 9001, but as an editor, you can give the suggestion that if in the present situation, you should have a good internet facility for everyone, and you must have the Zoom conference system. It will be good for the organization. Now it is a suggestion from your side. It is your observation. You can raise, as an editor, you can raise it, but it depends upon the organization. They may accept it or they may not accept it. But you cannot stop the decision of the certification in favor of that organization if they are not accepting your observation or your suggestion for improvement. In observation is a non-conformance which cannot be related to the requirement of the standard, or for the non-conformance which does not warrant even a minor deficiency. I mean, nothing is to do with the requirement of ISO 9001 if you are going to do the audit of ISO 9001. Rather, it is your point of view, so that is only observation. Uh, how to write the non-conformance statement? This is very, very important. I mean, this is the second attribute of a good auditor or a lead auditor. First attribute is how he prepares the checklist. His competency with respect to preparation of the checklist, and his competency with respect to how he writes the non-conformance report. If some of the problem is there, for example, if their two thermometer out of 10 are not calibrated, this is a minor non-conformance. But how he writes this non-conformance and how he report it, that is a second attribute of that auditor. So when we are going to go into the examination of this lead auditor course, there is always question with respect to preparation of the checklist, with respect to ISO 9001 standard, and then they give you scenario. You read the scenario and then you identify the non-conformance, and then you write the non-conformance so that they analyze how much competency you have to write the non-conformance. And what is required to write the non-conformance is first, what is the problem? I mean, what was the problem? What problem you have observed? and what is required with respect to standard, and what is the reference with respect to their procedure of the company. So, what is the problem? What was the problem? Is this problem is related with the requirement of ISO 9001, and where into the SOP of that company they have written. So if you write these three things, it is a documented evidence. So non-conforming, writing a non-conforming statement is with respect to 4C. I mean, your non-conformance should be clear. I mean, simple in language, in a simple English, not a fancy English. It should be correct with the objective. Complete, mean traceable, where this problem was, in which department. For example, you have observed into the operational plant or into the basically engineering department, that two thermometers were not calibrated. It is a traceable that where you have found, and it should be a concise, not so lengthy report. I will show in the coming slide, will show you the sample of this non-conformance statement. So it should be clear, it should be correct, it should be complete, and it should be concise. For example, this is a situation in a chemical testing lab. Okay, you are there to go for another audit, maybe of ISO 17025 audit, or maybe still of ISO 9000 audit. ISO 9000 can be implemented into the labs if your company is not going for 17025, because 17025 is a high level standard. But still, if you are going to implement 9001, so you can go, you can prepare the checklist with respect to 9001, or you can prepare the checklist with respect to 17025. But in both cases, this is a scenario that the person without lab coats in the laboratory. Okay, so what lab SOP CTL 051, okay, chemical testing lab procedure number 051 require that all person should wear the lab coat. Okay. Now, during the audit, it was observed that CTL2, chemical testing lab 2, out of 4 persons, see the scenario. Okay, this is the scenario. Now, he is converting this scenario into the non-conformance statement. Out of 4 people, 2 are not wearing the coat. Okay. Now, he has written non-conformance statement. During the audit, it was observed that in CTL2, where it is traceable, okay, where in CTL2, chemical testing lab 2, out of 4 persons present were not wearing lab coats. What is the requirement? Lab SOP requires all person in the lab to wear the lab coat. And where was the standard? You have to write the SOP number this. Okay. So you have written the reference standard, you have written the problem, and you have written the requirement. So the problem, requirement, and the reference, it is a non-conformance statement. Now this is another scenario. Okay. Develop NC from this scenario in the given. No calibration sticker on the pressure gauges. On the pressure gauges, there was no calibration sticker. Now, calibration procedure number this is a reference of the procedure. Require master calibration list to be maintained, and the equipment gauges should have calibration sticker. Okay. Now he has mentioned the class number of the ISO 9001 standard as well. He has mentioned the procedure number of this company, as per the procedure number of this company, procedure number this, and as per the ISO 9001 class number this, there should be calibration stickers on the equipment, but these are missing in this department. Okay, so he has written the complete scenario with the complete requirement, with the reference from the standard and with the reference from their procedure as well. And now see here, some people write the poor non-conformance statement. This here you have seen that this non-conformance statement was detailed with reference from the procedure, reference from the standard, and the detail of the problem. So everything is clear. But some of the auditor write non-clear statements, and those are the poor non-conformance statements. Quality objectives were not defined. I mean, against which standard quality objectives are required? What is the class number of the ISO 9001 standard? If it is not requirement of the standard, is it required into the company procedure? If so, what is procedure number? And for which department these quality objectives were not defined, where you have written? Nothing. So this is the poor non-conformance statement, and those auditors are considered as a poor auditor. I mean, not financially poor, but with respect to the competency, they are the incapable auditors. These are some of the examples of incapable auditor. Procedure for the testing was wrong. So, which procedure? What is the procedure number? What was the problem? Was wrong. It is a general statement. It is not a specific statement. Avoid statements blaming the pupil. You cannot write the pupil name. That I have observed that operator number, maybe the operator number, Martin did not know how to repair the machine. Or operator XYZ did not know how to prepare the machine. You cannot write the name of the person. The operator was not properly trained to repair the machine. Now, after writing the basically non-conformance statement, you have to convert that non-conformance statement into the corrective action form or corrective action request. You have to write your non-conformance statement here. What is one of the voltmeter number this used for testing generator at the final test bench of the main assembly shop was not calibrated. This is the requirement of the standard. And the class number has been mentioned here, reference of the class number. Who was the auditor? This was Mr. Commander was the auditor. Who was the auditee? Was the QC engineer. And which department? This was the department. This was the problem. This was the requirement. Now here the auditor will sign and the auditee will sign and they will put the date. So this is a corrective action form report, and you will hand over to auditee into the closing meeting. This is another form you can see here. I mean, some of the people add in the corrective action form, they add the root cause problem and the proposed action. I mean, but as an auditor, you will not fill it. This is a job of auditee. That is why here you can see signature of the auditee. But rather than auditee may prepare another form, they write here, I mean, in the same form, the auditor will write here the finding and requirement. This is a same part as you have seen in the previous slide. If you see here this part, okay. So this entire part is here. This is the entire part. and he will put here that this is a minor subclass, and he will write here the complete NC non-conformance report, and then he will hand over this form to the auditee. Then auditee will later on fill this form, that what was the root cause analysis, what are the proposed action, and what is the target date, who will be responsible, target date to close it, and then in the follow-up action, they will take the follow-up and auditor can verify that, okay, it has been closed. So some kind of form you can utilize like this. This is another form also. Okay, this is a NC statement form. Okay, what I have shown you auditor name, I mean the name of the auditor. Okay, what is the section, department name, auditor name, auditee name, reference class, type of the finding, major or minor. Then you will write here your finding, what are the standard requirement, and then auditor will sign and the auditee will sign at the end. And this is a non-conformance statement report, and you will hand over to your uh, to your to the company where you are auditing. I will basically send you by the end of this session, this training session, I will send you this form. This form I will send you as a separate on the email. I will send you this form, and to all the training, I will send you this form, and then what you have to do, you have to fill this form. I will send you the link of this exercise. Uh, in this is a complete basically instruction to you how to fill the form. I have added the 5 scenarios. You have seen there are 50 points total. There are 5 scenarios. You have to read each scenario, and you have to fill one form for each scenario. It means everybody has to fill the 5 forms. Okay, after reading these questions, 5 forms, you have to send me 5 forms. Okay, and I will write in the email when I will share you this form. I will write in the email the time frame will be very limited. This time I will not keep it open for 2 days or 3 days. I will keep it open only for 12 hours. And within the 12 hours, you have to read the 5 questions, and you have to fill one form for one question. It means you have to fill the 5 forms and then send it back to me with your name. You have to put your name. As an editor, you have to include your name in capital and sign it. And then scan this form and send to me through email, through your individual reply. So this will be kind of exercise before we may go toward the test. Definitely, when we will finish the question answer session, we will go for an entire test of this 19011 standard. This is the audit report. I mean, the audit report is always basically comprises of the good points and the non-conforming. I mean, in the audit report, you mentioned some of the exemplary practices as well. Then who was auditor, who was auditee, the good things the organization is doing, and then you can mention that these are the non-conformance, and then you can hand over this report in the closing meeting to the auditee, and you are conclusion that you are going to basically recommend this organization for certification. Recommendation does not mean a lead editor or auditor has given the authority for the certification. Certification authority will be with the certification committee, and then to the certification manager of the certification body. But auditor or lead editor can explain based on their findings to this company that they are going to recommend this company for certification. This is again a form. These are the sample audit forms. You can utilize it. I mean, you can mention the good exemplary practices. Then you can mention the problem areas. Problem areas are definitely these audit findings. You can mention here that this is the NC, this is NC, this is NC. Just the NCR statement here and the class number and the type of the NC, that it is major or minor observation. And I mean, the audit report is always a summary report of your finding. And then you can explain about certification decision, that we have found these two non-conformance and we are giving you this much time and you have to close these non-conformance at this time, and based on the closure of non-conformance we are going to recommend you for certification. Or you can say that we are not going to recommend you and your certification has been held because these are major non-conformance, and once you will remove this major non-conformance, maybe we will send one extra one-man day audit, and then after witnessing this major non-conformance, we will move further. This is a surveillance visit. I mean, just for your information, once this company has been certified, okay, the next year will be a surveillance audit, and that is called surveillance visit. In the surveillance audit, normally you check that how the company is using your certification logo, using your certification status. They are not interpreting it in a wrong way, because you have certified their management system and they are posing that their product is certified. This is not like this. Okay, they can basically, you can check with the follow up of the closure of the previous NCs, the corrective actions of the previous NCs, and then the area that you want to see that this is a critical area. You observed it in the main certification audit that was in the first year you have observed. You can decide some of the areas you want to basically audit in the surveillance visit. Normally you convert surveillance, I mean, if this year you have to audit, there will be next two surveillance and then you have to recertify it. Normally in the surveillance you do the 50% part and next surveillance you do another 50% part. Okay, and then into the recertification audit, again you go for the detail audit. Surveillance audits are not detail audit. These are basically very short audits. Guideline for this ISO 19011 2018 standard is almost over. In the 3 modules, we have finalized it, but now I am going to explain you about what is certification, what is accreditation, so that you must understand that what is conformity assessment. Conformity assessment is the basically demonstration that specified requirement related to the product, process, system or person have been fulfilled. Now this ISO 9001 is a management system audit. It is a process audit. Okay, some are the product audit. For example, 17065 certification body, that is a conformity assessment body, is a product certification body. Okay, and some are the personal certification bodies. Those are with respect to ISO 17024, and those are the personal certification bodies. Overall conformity assessment has 3 types. Okay, one is the product, one is the process, and one is the person. What is accreditation and what is certification? Accreditation is the third party attestation. Okay, accreditation is a higher body that basically accredit the certification body. Simple as that. Okay. Third party attestation, issue of a statement based on the decision uh, following a review that fulfillment the specified requirement has been met with respect to conformity assessment body. This is accreditation. But this is a attestation. Again, but attestation with respect to that third party attestation, issue of a statement based on the decision following the review that fulfillment of specified requirement has been demonstrated related to product, related to process, or related to person, that is called certification. But here related to conformity assessment body, that is accreditation. If you see here, this is a high level accreditation, this is the accreditation body. Like UCAS, like EJAC, like Pakistan Accreditation Council, Ghanaian Accreditation Council, Nigerian Accreditation Council. These are the basically high level accreditation council. They accredit the certification body, the laboratories as well. This accreditation body basically accredit the testing lab, they accredit the certification body, they accredit the product certification body, they accredit the product certification body. So this is accreditation body, and these are the certification or conformity assessment bodies. And inspection is also conformity assessment body. And these accreditation bodies are the basically member of this ILAC, and under the ILAC there are regional forum. For Africa it is AFRIC, African Regional Accreditation Forum, Asia Pacific Regional Accreditation Forum. So these are the regional accreditation forum working under the overall main this ILAC and IF. In terms of certification, it is IF. In terms of laboratories, it is ILAC. But these regional forums are the same. A registration trend is not there. Some kind of registration is with respect to some regulation, but I'm not going in detail what means by registration. Selecting a certification body, basically, if you are going to get certify your organization, you must see that your certification body is accredited certification body. If it is accredited, it is a member of IF or not. Because some of the certification bodies I have observed that those are fake certification bodies and they are not accredited. If they are accredited, still the accreditation body is not the member of IF. Again, it is fake. So you have to see it and then you have to verify it before getting towards certification. Thank you very much. This is our Twitter account. This is our Facebook account. Okay. This module 3 is somehow more to do it. That is why I have included many exercises. After this lecture, you will find my email. I mean, I will send you one email comprising of one form, and I will share with you some of the scenarios, and then you have to reply back to me. And in similar way, we will prepare, do the some of the exercise with respect to how to write the non-conformance statement. Some of the exercise we will do how to prepare the checklist. And then some of the exercise we will do how to basically report the audit, because these three things are very, very important. And you will find my emails after this lecture, and I will share with you the form, and step by step I will explain you, and I will share with you the exercises. But please, you have to do these exercises within time and share back to me so that we may do another session. And I want to get your answer before the our question and answer session, so that I may guide you how you have filled these forms and where you have did some mistakes and where are the opportunities for the improvement. Thank you very much. See you then.